Welcome back for another episode of The Honest Entrepreneur, where I'm bringing you tried and tested advice to help your online business without any of the bullshit. This week, I'm following on from last week's episode where I talked about the importance of how to build an engaged community and why this matters so much. Today, I'm going to delve into the nitty-gritty, get super actionable, and actually try and teach you guys how to achieve this level of engagement, how to get a community that cares about what you're putting out into the world. And I'm happy to reveal the one true big secret of how to do this. Everything I've been building up to at this point is now available as part of my brand new ebook, the System Mastery Academy book, available for $9.99. Sorry, no, you know I'm not about that, guys. I'm just kidding. Let's get into it. The answer is actually found within another book altogether. It's found within Gary Vaynerchuk's first book, Crush It. It's found on page 101, and it's under a chapter called The Best Marketing Strategy Ever. On this singular page, written in giant letters, it simply says one word, which is care. And this really is the foundation of everything that I do and everything that I teach. You have to care about your audience. I think it's all too easy to look at that word and think care and just view that as trite or trivial and gloss over it. But really, this is behind everything I do. In order to build an audience, you have to care about them in the first place. You have to build real relationships. You have to listen to your audience. You have to provide real value. You have to go deep with your audience and actually get to know them. All this stuff is the absolute foundational bedrock of how to get your early stage community off the ground. So today I thought it would be fun to share my 4-part strategy of exactly how the hell you actually do this. Point number 1 is do not wait for your community to come to you. You need to go to them. I think what 99.9% of you are doing right now is you have a bit of a following on social media and you continue, I always say this, to shout into the void. You're just shouting out there, you're putting content out there. You have no idea if it's sticking really. You don't know how it's resonating with people. You're not really getting any comments, any engagement, or any feedback. So it feels like a lost cause. And this is why so many people give up, right? They're shouting into the void, they keep putting out content, and they're getting no validation. They think, am I doing a good job at all? Does my content suck? Do I suck by extension? These are big questions, and they can leave us feeling pretty defeated and pretty insecure. The best way to build a community is to go direct to the people that you want to be reaching, rather than passively sitting around and waiting for them to come to you simply because you happen to be sharing content just like everyone else. Most of us have some kind of following, so that's instantly some kind of validation, whether you've got 17 followers, 71, 1,400 or 14,000. It doesn't matter. Most of us have some kind of starting point of an audience. And if you don't, putting out content will at least amass a little bit of an audience over time. The problem is most of that audience generally are not going to engage. Realize people are really busy in this day and age. We're all scrolling 1,000 miles an hour on our social media feeds, and really think about it. How often do you stop and actually like a post, let alone take the time to leave a comment, let alone take the time to leave a really heartfelt, engaged comment? Not very often, I'm guessing. So you need to realize it has to be a pretty special relationship to actually warrant someone doing this. Think about it in terms of who your most engaged comments come from. Typically, it will be your friends. You know, it might be your best friend who's laughing at something with you or who's supporting a new venture or something like that. And you think that doesn't really count because they're just a friend, they're not a stranger. And so that doesn't really validate what I'm doing. But the trick is you need to try and make the people in your following, in your community, your friends. So a great tip for this is literally DM every person that follows you if you have sustainable numbers. I've started doing this recently and I've advised people to do this and they're getting tremendous results. Literally one by one, hit them up with a DM saying, "Hey Charlie, how are you? Thank you so much for following my content. I really appreciate it. I'd love to know anything you'd like to see, anything you're struggling with right now in your business, painting, carpentry, whatever it might be. I would really love to help, totally free of charge." And when you do that, that starts some actual conversations happening. The other day I did this, and in 35 minutes, I think it was, I reached out to 60 people. And out of those 60, I think 60% of them came back. And so before I knew it, I was having great conversations with people. Some of them didn't go anywhere. It was a bit of back and forth, and they were like, love what you're putting out. And that's great. Others, it turned into a bit of an ongoing relationship. And before I knew it, I'd built a deeper connection with that particular follower. I also talk a lot about triangles in my content, if you've been following me for a while. So if you imagine you've got a triangle at the top, the wide part is where you've got your kind of disengaged followers, right? At the bottom, in the very narrow point, you've got your most engaged followers. And these are the ones who generally support what you do, who comment and engage on your content. The idea is, how do you get people from the broad to the narrow? How do you get them from disengaged to engaged? And I think you start by trying to let people identify themselves as engaged fans. Something I've been doing is, I realize, for example, I've got 1,400 followers right now on Instagram. Not a massive number, but I guarantee all of them are not engaged. So something I'll do is I'll put out something on my stories, realizing that those 1,400 pretty soon go down to about 200, 300, when that's the people who are engaged enough to watch my story. So straight away, 90% of my audience are gone. I don't need to worry about them because they're not engaging to the same level as this 200 or 300. Then out of the 200 or 300, I might put a call to action in my story saying, hey, I'd love to chat about this and help you guys. DM me if you want some help. Out of the 200 or 300, I might end up with 10 to 20 who actually bother to DM me, which means that out of an audience of 1,400 or so people, I've now got 20 people who are highly, highly engaged compared to my average follower. That's a clear indication to me of the people where I need to go all in, start chatting with them, bringing them value, listening to their feedback, asking what content they want to see, help them any way I can, and over the long term, build a real relationship with them. It's a great tactic, and there's 1,000 different variants of how you can identify these more engaged people in your audience. So what do you do once you've identified these people? Well, point number 2 is you need to provide disproportionate value. I just touched on making them your friend, providing them value, listening to them, etc. But I really think you need to bring out the big guns for this. It needs to be so disproportionate to the point of it not making any sense. I think, again, 99% of you're withholding value. You're not really willing to give up the good stuff unless you're charging for it. And I think that's a fundamental mistake. Every single week, I jump on a 2-hour call with some of my most engaged followers by way of thanking them for supporting my content. If I was thinking in terms of value and ROI, then I'm making nothing off of them from this. It's simply a gesture that I like to do. However, I've consulted in the past. I know that time could be worth $500, $1,000, and I could be bringing that in every single week. But in my mind, that's short-term thinking. I have no interest in extracting value out of those followers. I just want to give them value back. That's what I mean about disproportionate. I think no one is willing to give that value. If you're a tennis coach, then have a weekly call like that and take Q&A and help them with their technique, or get them to go out on the court and live stream their playing and give them some real feedback, the kind of stuff you'd actually provide for your paid clients. When these people arise and present themselves to you and you realize they're your most engaged followers, those people should be like gold dust to you. You should appreciate them. They're going to be at the very inception point, the very foundation of what it is you're trying to build. If you ever want to get bigger, you need to have that really solid core of people. I've been working with my personal trainer recently, trying to give him some advice on this stuff. And I'm like, you should totally have a group where your clients are on there, and for free, you give them extra advice out of session hours, and you answer their questions and you help correct their form, and all this stuff you'd normally pay for. You do it like a bonus. You have to realize, like I mentioned before, it's such a busy online world, right? People have this fleeting attention span, and there's literally millions of people vying for their attention. Whatever industry you're in, there's tons of competition, there's tons of noise and different content and profiles on social media. The way to stand out is to disproportionately give, particularly when you have no leverage. It's different. If you're The Rock, then you can literally tag someone in a description, which takes you 2 seconds, and their mind is blown. But most of us don't have that much leverage. So particularly at the start, you need to really over-index with the value you're bringing people, because I personally believe in the long term, that's how it plays out that you win. So tip number 3 is just realize this stuff takes time. And a lot of time. Right now, I'm starting to build my personal brand and this show. I'm under no illusions. This for me is like a 5 to 10 year plan. And I've been doing this for a long time. Everything I built, my company, as far as I'm concerned, I'm now back to square one with this. And it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Don't try and rush it. You don't build a big engaged community overnight. You build it one person at a time. And then you build a brand and a reputation based on how you treat those people over years. Realize that this stuff compounds. I really believe that. I think it is slow going at first, but I think you can absolutely build momentum as you get a name out there in the wider community, in your wider industry, and you keep treating people right, you keep bringing them value. I'm a firm believer in the karma aspect of doing that. Whilst I might be quite new in this entrepreneurial space doing this with this show and my personal brand, this is exactly how it played out in the design industry for me. I've helped hundreds, thousands of people over the years. I've tried to be nice to everyone I can, and that stuff does add up over time. You know, when you start to meet people and they've already heard of you and heard that you're a decent guy or girl, that's really powerful. And the same thing applies to community building. People start to tell their friends. That starts to get a bit of momentum. It starts to spread organically when you're really focused on bringing value and treating those people at the absolute core of what it is you're building incredibly well. Point number 4 is don't worry about scale. Certainly not at first anyway. You might be listening to what I'm saying and thinking, this is so unscalable, I can't be bothered. And the truth is, if you can't be bothered to treat your followers incredibly well, get to know them, and actually want to bring them value, you probably shouldn't be trying to build a community at all, because I believe there aren't really any shortcuts to doing this the right way. Unscalable is fine. Most of you worrying about it being unscalable don't have anything of any kind of scale to worry about in the first place. If you're getting no comments and no engagement and you're shouting into the void and putting out content, you really don't need to worry about scale. Come and talk to me when you've got 100 people who love everything you do and are constantly harassing you with questions and stuff. And then I'm happy to talk about scale. I can absolutely get into that stuff in a future episode. Let me know in the comments if that would be helpful for some of you. But in a nutshell, it kind of comes down to hire people if you can, and really force your ethos on those people, get them to adopt it, get them to really live it and breathe it, and then they can help scale your efforts. Or you can do scalable stuff like lives, webinars, and kind of group settings like I do with my weekly call with some of my followers. There's a lot of angles you can explore. Happy to go down that road. But for the majority of you, if you're watching this episode, you're mainly concerned, how do I actually start a tool? How do I start building any kind of engagement? How do I get my tiny amount of engagement and make that something bigger and more meaningful? How do I build a community that cares? And I hope this episode has shown you the actionable steps to get there. Remember, there's no shortcuts, there's no hacks, there's no strategies that you can just dump on just anyone. You know, this stuff, it comes down to humans dealing with humans, right? We buy from people we like and trust. We engage with people that we like and trust. It's as simple as that. You have to put in the work to actually be an asset to these people. You have to put in the work to actually get them to like you. You should like them. You should trust each other. It's all fundamentally very human stuff. It's a lot of what I tend to preach in my content and how I do business. And for me, it's a million times more real and genuine than me selling you on the secret sauce funnel system that's somehow going to squeeze some money out of these people, because that is not a community. That is bullshit. I need a sign off. What's a good sign off? Check you later. As always, thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Really appreciate all the support I'm seeing for the show. It's kind of blowing my mind. This is case in point, right? This is early days. I'm not getting ahead of myself. I want this episode to be proof that I'm kind of practicing what I preach. So there is a small community around my content. I've only got 119 YouTube subscribers at the time of publication. I've got 1,400 Instagram followers. I am not like some A-lister in this space yet, although watch this space. But honestly, I don't care about that stuff that much. What I do care about is your engagement. I care about getting to know you. I care about actually having a dialogue and opening that up. So please, if you're watching this video, that's why I'm always asking, do leave a comment, do engage, because that's how we actually build a relationship. That's how you leave a comment. I want to help you. We end up DMing, we end up on a video call, and suddenly I'm helping you get a breakthrough for your business. That's the stuff that I believe in, not the endless scrolling and never stopping to actually have that human interaction. So I hope everything I'm doing in my actions and this show is kind of proving the points I've talked about within this episode. Anyway, rant over from me, As always, appreciate you guys, and I'll see you next time. Hey, thanks so much for watching this episode. Really appreciate you being here with me. If you haven't yet, please do subscribe right here on YouTube. Remember, tick the little bell icon so that you get proper notifications. I really hope you're enjoying the show. I hope you'll stick around for the upcoming episodes. I really want to keep bringing you as much value as possible. So thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you guys soon.